Hello everybody. I know that it has been a little while since I've posted. This past year's had a lot of changes for myself, as I'm sure it has for you as well. Just a lot of changes with the pandemic. I also have some good news. I opened my own private practice. So that's the space that we're in today. And so there's just been a lot going on, but I have decided to rededicate posting videos. They probably won't be weekly, but hopefully they'll be monthly and bi-weekly, and maybe we'll move up to weekly. Today, especially with the holidays coming up, I know they call them holidays, like they're holly and jolly, but they aren't for everybody. The other thing to keep in mind too is that when we're dealing with other people's energies, there's a lot of energies floating around, and we're getting together with people who may be bringing in other energies. We're going out shopping. Even at the grocery store, there's going to be a lot of different energies around, and it can be kind of hard to protect ourselves from that and not pick up on that, especially if you're more empathic. Also, there's just a lot of craziness in the world with all these COVID variants, a lot of worry in general, potential worry about if there's going to be any closures or lockdowns or shutdowns again, whatever you want to call them. And just worrying about what gifts to get people and being places on time or having to shovel or just driving to work in general, as a lot of people are going back. So I found myself doing this one a lot recently, just for me, but also with a lot of my patients. So I thought this would be a really nice one to share. So this is going to be a mindfulness exercise, but it's a twofer because it's also a grounding exercise. So when I say grounding, it means that we are kind of coming back to ourselves, connecting with the earth, connecting with our body, but also connecting to the present moment. So when we're feeling really anxious, stressed out, or if you're somebody who has trauma, when you're feeling really hypervigilant or having a flashback, we are not in our body. We're not in this present moment. We're out here kind of stuck in our head, grabbing onto all these thoughts, or maybe the thoughts are evading us and they're just spiraling and swirling. So this exercise is going to help us to refocus, to check back in with ourselves and try to release some of the energy we might be picking up from other people or places, to reassure ourselves that we are here right now and that we're not somewhere else having a flashback. And also just, again, to connect us with the earth and bring us back home for a little bit. So I am going to do a little bit of a reading, and then we're going to try the exercise together. I'm going to ask that you have a space where you can both sit down and then stand up and just be able to move a teeny bit, but you really don't need a ton of space for this one. So this exercise is called Feel the Ground, but a good cue for yourself, if you are feeling yourself start to spiral, or if you're having a flashback and are somewhat aware of it, or if you start to dissociate or depersonalize a little bit, is to sometimes ask yourself, where are my feet, or what are my feet doing right now? So where are my feet, or what are my feet doing are good cues. The exercise is called Feel the Ground. Just like our breath, our connection to the earth is always available to us. By simply paying attention to the feeling of our feet, we can literally ground ourselves at any time. Practice this in different circumstances and in different places, so that when you're facing difficult moments in the future, you have an always accessible tool to bring yourself back to the present moment. So we are going to start right now. We're going to start seated. So I'll give you a minute just to get into that position. I'm going to stand up, so bear with me a moment as I back up. So from our seat, you want to make sure that you can have your feet flat on the ground. So that means for shorter people like myself, we might have to scoot a little bit closer to the edge of the bed, couch, or chair, wherever we're seated today. So we're going to start just by taking 2 deep clearing breaths. So we're going to take them in through the nose and let them out through the mouth with some noise. And if you're somebody who's worried about noise, I'll probably be louder than you are. So we're going to start that now. We're going to take a nice big inhale. Exhale. So without tilting your whole body forward, we're just gonna start to draw the gaze down towards the feet. If you really prefer, you can have the eyes closed, but for this particular mindfulness, it does help to be looking down at the feet because it just adds another element of grounding as we're really orienting towards the ground. So taking this first mindful moment, starting to check in with your feet. Just notice what parts of your feet are really making contact with the floor. Are there any parts that aren't? If you're a visual person, you may like to try to imagine little tendrils coming out from the bottoms of your feet, almost like tree roots, and just really starting to hunker down into the ground. Sometimes it's hard to keep the mind here because the mind wanders, and it's what it's designed to do. So we're going to add in a little bit of movement to really draw the attention to the feet. We'll start by leaning back into the heels, picking up the toes and spreading them out nice and wide. And exhale, we'll set them down. Inhale, we're going to come up onto the toes and the pads of the feet, lifting the heels. Exhale to set them down. Inhale, we're going to draw the toes up, and this time we're just going to give them a little bit of a wiggle and really notice how the pressure points on the feet change. Exhale, we'll set them down. Inhale, we're going to come up on the tippy tops of your toes, and you might start to notice some change in your calves or even in your thighs and your outer hips. Exhale, we'll set them down. And take a moment just to reroute, regroup. Notice any sensations we may have just caused in the feet. If your eyes are closed, I'm going to ask that you just peek them open a little bit for this next part. We're going to very slowly and intentionally, on an inhale, start to stand up. So immediately notice how things start to change in the feet. We weren't putting a lot of pressure on them before when we were sitting down, but now all of our weight is in our feet. Continue to look down towards the feet, but you can also close your eyes if that feels better. Just notice how you naturally stand. Some people tend to lean more into their heels or the toes. Some people tend to over or under pronate, which means they either turn in towards their other foot or they turn out away from the other foot. So just noticing your natural stance. Just like we did when we were seated, we're going to add a little bit of movement in here just to really draw that attention. So we're going to keep the heels planted, and we're going to start to lean forward more into the toes and start to notice what that feels like, changing the weight. You might even notice a change in your legs. Then we're going to come over to the right hand side. Notice any changes in the feet, the weight shifting. We're going to keep the toes down, start to draw the bum back, and you might want to lean a little extra forward for balance. And then we'll come all the way over to the left and back forward. We're going to do a little circle. We're going to do 2, and I'm going to be quiet just so you can feel. Remember to breathe. And we'll come back up to standing just to reroute. We're going to do that same thing. We're going to do 3 circles in the opposite direction. So we're going to start to lean forward, keep the heels down. We'll come over to the left side. Lean back, but keep the toes down. Right side. And forward. 2 more. Remember to breathe. We'll come back up straight. If you're a visual person, picture those little trundles coming down through the feet, rooting you down into the ground. And start to really press through the toes, press through the heels, lean up really tall, press super deep into the ground. Feel all the muscles in your legs working as you do this. Maybe you're even pulling your belly in and noticing some engagement in your core. And then nice and slowly you can blink the eyes a few times. We'll shake it out a little bit. And just come back to now. So I hope you guys all enjoyed this one today. As I said, it's one of my favorites and one that I definitely use a lot and use a lot with my patients. If you feel like you want to use this through the holidays, sometimes it's nice to even just take a break, say, I'm going to go get a drink of water and walk out into the kitchen and try this one for a minute if you find a moment by yourself. You can also use this at the dinner table and nobody will know what you're doing, unless you do the stand-up part, obviously, but you can do the seated part. You can even do this as if you're traveling for the holidays or just in general. And when you pull up to a place, don't just run inside. Take a moment in the car and really just ground yourself, ground down through your feet, or alternatively through your seat, right? Because your bum's usually touching the car seat at that point. And you can do those same circle motions while you're seated as well. So there's a lot of different options for this one. You don't have to do it this exact same way. This is a sequence that I honestly just made up, but it feels good for me and my body and really helps me focus. So if there's different movements you want to take with your feet, or if you want to try this with your hands, like pressing them together or tenting them, squeezing them, even rubbing them to get that sensation and some heat, you can try this with different parts of your body for sure. But at any rate, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you stay safe this holiday season, and I hope you have a very mindful day.